find some sort of harmony and balance.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? BC, welcome back to another episode. Look, I want to do a quick episode today on something that we see permeating our culture today, and I want to make sure that we can be able to objectively analyze it, understand where it shows up in your life, and how to utilize this to your advantage, right? When we look at our culture overall now, it's very soft, it's very PC. It's all about protecting people's feelings, creating safe spaces, participation trophies, right? Like, it really belittles a lot of stuff that used to just be the norm in our culture, right? But I don't want to sit here and say this is good, this is bad, and blah, blah, blah. What I want to show you is how this relates to your existence as a human being and some of the factors that it clashes with and causes suffering in human beings, okay? So, one is this, right? We know that when people get into entrepreneurship and sales, as an example, one thing that they struggle with is the idea of confrontation. And confrontation isn't necessarily physical confrontation, but it basically boils down to many examples: speaking up for yourself, saying what needs to be said when it needs to be said, and giving the truth, regardless of how it makes people feel. And let's look at those three, because those are very important and they clash directly with the culture, right? So as an example, if I now am conditioned to believe I need to protect people's feelings at all costs and walk on eggshells and never offend people, well, if I know that telling the truth to somebody is going to offend them, well, now I'm in this crazy kind of position where I'm leaning one way but the other. Well, how do I say the truth without offending people? And you become stuck. Now the truth becomes secondary to protecting somebody's feelings. Now, understand that I'm not here in this example to purposely hurt somebody's feelings. However, if hurting your feelings is a byproduct of me telling you the truth, well, guess what? The truth is more important than how people feel. At the end of the day, why? We suffer when we hide the truth, when we lessen the truth, when we avoid the truth because of trying to protect somebody's feelings, right? Now, imagine you raise a boy or a girl, right, your child, and you're worried about protecting their feelings instead of teaching them about reality and the truth. They will suffer. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And when you look at it from the standpoint, you start to see, okay, like, I agree with you, Bryan, I understand, but you get all the backlash because society, again, is very PC now. Well, see, all these things feed into each other and they create weak people, weak circumstances, weak minds, and weak individuals. So this is what I can say about this, right? The truth is the truth. So if we go back to that first example that I gave you, again, if you approach me, and this is why a lot of people come to me, because they know I'm going to give them the raw, unfiltered truth, and I'm not saying things to offend them or hurt them. I'm just giving them the truth to give them reality on the situation, the ability to grow, the ability to not acknowledge something, and to know where they stand and where they're at, like a true, genuine acceptance of their current circumstances, right? Somebody comes to me, well, you know, blah, 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 I'm overweight, this and that. I can acknowledge, yes, you're overweight and you need to do something. I'm not worried about them getting in their feelings that they're overweight or them thinking that I'm belittling them. I'm doing none of those things. I'm simply pointing out, hey, you're overweight. We need to get to work. We need to analyze your diet and your lifestyle, and we need to make some changes, right? If we want you to be in better shape and live a better life. I mean, that's just the truth. But eventually they have to come to terms of, hey, I've let myself go. Hey, I'm overweight. Hey, I need to make a change. This isn't healthy. We would all agree on that, right? Now, I'm not saying here that we're going to bash the person, oh, you fucking piece of shit. Like, no, we're not going to do that, right? Again, just the truth. Hey, I'm overweight. I need to acknowledge it. So look at our culture, though. Oh, it's body positivity and all this other nonsense. It's like, dude, like, are we going to that extreme where we have to hide the truth, right? I've heard people say skinny privilege because when they eat, they gain weight. Well, anybody eats. If you eat in excess, you gain weight. Like, we've created this distorted reality that has gotten away from the facts. If you're overweight, you're overweight, period. If your body fat is too high, it's unhealthy. Being overweight, being obese is not sexy. It's not aesthetic. Men looking at a woman who's obese, we're not attracted to that. I'm attracted to a fit woman that has the curves and the proportions and all that. That's aesthetically pleasing to our eye and to our loins. We like that. I don't care how much advertising and shaming is being put out and new, in quotes, scientific research about obese women. I'm never going to be attracted to that, and neither is 99.9% of men. Do you have the small constituent and group that is attracted to, bigger women? Sure, but they're the exception to the rule. That doesn't change the rule that we appreciate beauty. Same thing with art or anything else. We appreciate aesthetics and all that stuff. I mean, that's encoded into our DNA, and no amount of literature or propaganda is going to change that, because that's human nature. It's the same thing with dating and all this stuff that you see going on now where, oh, well, you shouldn't do this and shouldn't do that. Dude, it's our nature. Human nature is always going to win, and we're always going to default to that. You can try to philosophize it and change us with all these new doctrines and, oh, well, we should do this and we should do that. It's not going to work. Sorry. This is why you see the current disaster in many sectors of the world and different genres like, dating and overall health and lifestyle and fitness and image and the public eye and fashion, right? It's totally getting out of control. I mean, even on a biological level, they're trying to blur the line. Well, it's not men and women, it's like 50,000 genders. Like, come on, dude. Like, how far off the edge have we gone? And we've gotten away from truth. But again, that's society. So again, to further emphasize the first point and moving forward, you as an entrepreneur, a salesperson, a real estate person listening to me, wanting to live a very proper life in the respect of being able to execute as a human being at the highest level. Well, if I need to influence and persuade as an example, I can't be coming from the side of society right now, which is totally unhinged. I will never be able to make a solid, rational point that's backed up by logic and delivered properly if I'm worried about, as an example, offending people or modifying my language and all this other stuff that's being asked of people now that is totally irrational and uncalled for. I will not be able to stand up for myself if I'm putting other people's feelings first all the time, to where I will now, again, withhold the truth to protect somebody's feelings and ego and all that. It just doesn't make sense. We need to be adults and mature. That's a part of the maturity process of an adult, is you understand that you're not going to agree with everybody. You're not going to like everything that you see, but you have the choice to close your eyes or walk the other way or ignore it or not engage with that person or et cetera, et cetera. You see, but if you have the inability to confront somebody, if you have the inability to say the truth about the situation, if you have the inability to tell the customer what they need to hear, when they need to hear it, you're not going to be effective, period. You're going to be very limited in the scope of your ability to influence and persuade and build a brand and do all these things that we've been talking about and preaching for a long time. You see, the reason I'm able to cut through all the BS, and many of you watch me, is I stand on this principle. I can communicate at a level and sell at a level that very few people can, because I'm not susceptible to all these societal attacks and status quos and way of thinking and groupthink and all this nonsense that you see going around. And I've been attacked viciously for going against it and canceled and deplatformed and censored and all that fun stuff. I mean, it's crazy. It's okay though. I know I'm standing with the truth, and I have no problems or qualms about standing my ground and saying, no, I'm not going to deal with it. No, I don't agree with that. Some of it you can say is true, some of it you can say is opinions, that's fine. But I stand by what I speak. Now, imagine that as a salesperson or behind a brand. You want somebody representing you and somebody working with you that stands by the principles, because then they're going to stand by you as a customer. They're going to protect, right, your investment. They're going to protect your wants and needs as a customer. Why? Because they first display that with themselves and in their own life. They're not going to withhold the truth from you. They're going to tell you what's in your best interest, because they do the same for themselves. I mean, it's really that simple. But understand that this PC culture and all this other stuff has kind of poisoned the well when it comes to our existence. Because now you don't realize that although that's in a separate category, most people think, it influences your daily life. Now you're afraid to post on Facebook. Now you're afraid to dress a certain way. Now you're afraid and hesitant to speak a certain way. It literally permeates every level of your existence as a human being. You need to acknowledge it, and you need to do something about it. This is why people are experiencing depression and mental illness at the highest levels and more frequent than ever before. Because this stuff from society and all these things being bled into and forced into our culture, that most of it is absolute nonsense, is affecting people in their daily lives. It really is. And they don't realize it, that they're creating insanity. They're creating mental illness. They're creating instability. They're creating perpetual suffering at levels that we've never seen before. That's the real pandemic, if we're going to name it something, right? And don't even get me started about that. You've heard my opinions over the last couple of years. That's the real issue at hand here, not some of these other things that we talk about and think are the issue. But how does that affect you as an individual? Great question. Ask yourself, where am I limited? Where am I hesitating? Right? Where is the real me not showing up, or only a piece of me showing up because I'm afraid of backlash or criticism or judgment, right? Because there is where you're limited. That will stop you from being able to exercise your ability to be an ultimate entrepreneur, salesperson, real estate person, individual, dad, boyfriend, right? Whatever it is. It will limit you severely because you are not even owning your genuine expression as a human being and your potential as a human being, because you're limited by something outside of you. Now, we didn't deal with that when we were kids. That's what is one of the aspects of a child that are so powerful, right? That stubbornness to get what they want, not worrying about the outside, and then that gets sucked out of them through, again, accepting reality in adulthood, right? And there's some innocence in the child that isn't good, right? They're naive to certain things, but there's many aspects of the child that are very powerful if you tap back into them in your adulthood and rekindle that fire. It's extremely effective, right? So basically what I'm saying here is make sure that all the craziness around us is not stopping you from being able to exercise your potential as a human being in areas such as being able to confront somebody, a situation, saying what needs to be said when it needs to be said, being honest and forthcoming, and not worrying about people's feelings. And those are just a few that I wanted to talk about today. There's so much more, but understand that if you limit yourself on that level, it's going to be very difficult for you to not only be happy and fulfilled, but be effective as a human being and live a clean, honest existence. Because what we're dealing with now is absolute madness. And if you don't do something about it and at least be that beacon of truth, the future doesn't look very bright for most people. Okay, that's it for this one, guys. Keep a lookout for the announcements. I have a couple things coming up, like the massive Momentum Summit. I'm doing a personal development event as well. Those things will be on teambcevents.com. If you need any help from me, schedule a strategy session, talk to me about Real. You want to find out about the coaching and courses and you're willing to hop on and you really want to step up, go to bryancasella.com and we'll see you there. All right, peace.